Thank you so much, Pranav, for all of those details and the latest on that. Thank you so much. And now, viewers, we'll move on with the bulletin. But first, let's take a look at the headlines first. Trump makes huge statement, says Iran ceasefire is over, calls Iranians liars and scum. NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte says US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Iranian Foreign Ministry response to US strikes on Iran, says the MOU has been grossly violated. Republic investigation forces Meta to issue detailed India-specific response on child sexual abuse content available on its platform despite repeated flagging. Meta goes all defensive, refuses to take ownership for removal of child sexual abuse content after Republic's big expose. Republic continues investigation in Meta child sexual abuse scandal after the social media giant refuses to take down disturbing content. Baruipur rape and murder accused shot dead in police encounter during crime scene reconstruction. FIR registered and 3 arrested in doctor assault case. Shiva Sena Shinde leader Ramesh Mahastre still not arrested. United States charges jailed Indian gangster Lawrence Bishnoi and his aide Goldie Brar in the murder case of Khalistani separatist Hardip Singh Nijjar. Viewers, we have a big breaking news at the moment. NATO General Secretary General Mark Rutte has said that the new fresh launch of attacks by the United States against Iran was absolutely necessary. Now, he says that when you have a ceasefire and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, I think it is totally crucial that the US forcefully reacts. And this is the statement coming in on the heels of the NATO summit that's being held in Ankara in Turkey. And Mark Rutte, he has said that the retaliation by the US against Iran is in fact absolutely necessary in his words. And he says that Iran has continued to violate the ceasefire. And this after Donald Trump has also announced that the ceasefire with Iran is now officially over, with war possibly resuming and even oil prices skyrocketing at about 6%. It's shooting up at around 6%.
Yes, sir.
What is your reaction on the recent US attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary. Because when you have a ceasefire and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, and we've seen what happened yesterday with ships being attacked, I think it is totally crucial that the US forcefully reacts. Yes, sir.
What is your reaction on the recent US attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary. Because when you have a ceasefire and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, and we've seen what happened yesterday with ships being attacked, I think it is totally crucial that the US forcefully reacts.
Viewers, that was a statement of Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO. He is there in Ankara of the NATO summit that's being held in Ankara in Turkey. And now he says that the retaliation, the fresh launch of attacks by the United States is absolutely necessary, saying that the ceasefire has been violated by Iran incessantly. And we are also joined by Rajan Kochar, who has joined us on this broadcast. And thank you so much, Major General, for joining us on this broadcast. I'd like your comments on this latest escalation that's been developing across the region. Now, General Secretary of NATO, he has said that the retaliation by the US is absolutely necessary. They're also alleging that Iran has continued to violate the ceasefire over the many years, and that in the latest escalation that we are seeing, Bandar Abbas has also been targeted by the United States. What is your take on this, as United States President has now announced that the ceasefire is over?
Thank you very much for inviting me for this discussion. I think things are very serious now because And I would like to maintain the next 48 hours are going to be very challenging. In case there is an escalation, then there'll be the burial of this ceasefire. I don't think this MOU is going to last in case the situation does not stabilize in the next 48 hours. So I think this 48 hours are going to be crucial. And one important aspect which is emerging now is that Donald Trump has been able to get the NATO support, because you see earlier there were fissures in NATO, and short of joining the war in this NATO meet at Turkey, what has emerged is also very significant, because here there have been statements in solidarity with President Trump. NATO has made a statement that they are with the president as far as the Iran war is concerned. They have justified the action of the US as far as the blocking or the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. They have also ratified their support for Ukraine. So all these aspects is strengthening Donald Trump now, because Ukraine and the Iran war has to be linked with each other because of Russian support to Iran. So from that point of view, the Ukraine angle is also very important. So I think things are very, very fragile as of now. Chances are 10% to 90%, I would say, as of now, because the way statements are coming, because there is no mediator here. There is no powerful entity here who can broker a kind of a sensible intervention as far as these statements are concerned, because the IRGC is also very, very hardline as far as their statements are concerned. And what has been very, very evident in the signing of the MOU has been the lack of trust, because we have seen there is absolutely no trust between US and the Iranians, and especially when Iran was expecting a certain amount of defreezing of its account, and especially the $6 billion which are held with Qatar. That has not happened. And a second important factor has been the reimposition of the sanctions of oil, because US had taken off those sanctions as far as the exports and the imports of oil was concerned. I think those sanctions have been reimposed now. So that is also a very strong factor which will dictate Iran's response. Because as I can make out, Iran's response is also going to be a very hardline one, and especially when the visuals, as we are seeing, when these funeral procession has actually got the entire country together, and it is not only Iran which has got together, the Shia countries like Azerbaijan, Iraq, Bahrain, because these are Shia-dominated countries. They have got together with Iran. So this kind of solidarity which Iran is actually getting is giving it more strength to fight Donald Trump.
Right, Major General, I request you to continue to stay with us, because we are going to take another breaking news that's coming, and it's regarding oil prices. Now, oil prices has now jumped 6% as Donald Trump says that ceasefire with Iran is officially over. Now, US oil prices surged and stocks even fell after US President Donald Trump has said that the memorandum of understanding between Iran and US had that underpinned this ceasefire with Iran was over, in his words, and this follows an overnight of exchange of attacks between the two sides. Now, Donald Trump also made the remarks while speaking at a NATO summit in Ankara. And now, in the latest, the oil prices stands with Brent crude at as it rose at 6% to $78 per barrel, while European stocks fell 1.6% on the day. The dollar also strengthened, and the government bond yields climbed as investors weighed the risk of a renewed flare-up in inflation. Now, coming back to you, Major General, I would like your reaction as well. The the major consequences of the West Asian war was the price of the oil and how the Strait of Hormuz was choked, this restricting supply of global oil everywhere. And now with this latest remarks from the US president and Iran also responding back to that, the violation of ceasefire and also ceasefire officially ending, and with the prices of Brent crude surging, how could that look like in the coming weeks and months if now we are to take that the war is officially resuming back?
Very good question. You see, because 6% escalation has already taken place, as I see now, and if there's no going back onto the ceasefire, these prices of oil are going to cross $100 a barrel, and even more than that. And what is more significant is the implications on India, because you see there was a certain kind of stabilization as far as India was concerned, and especially the fertilizers. You know, it is in the month of August our agricultural season starts, and we were expecting, it was very timely for the Strait of Hormuz to open for India, and this fertilizers were expected very soon. So now this will be a great setback to the farmers. It is going to push up the inflation in India. The prices of oil again are likely to boomerang again. And again, as I said, the petroleum products will also be impacted. And not only that, they are connected minerals also, which we were actually getting in the industry also. For example, I would say that, plastic industry was badly affected. So I think if you look at the overall perspective in the coming months, this will be a great setback, because much was expected this war will be over and things will stabilize, but I don't see it happening now, and we need to get up ourselves as far as our own country is concerned, and we need to psychologically also tune ourselves for a price rise in all major commodities, including oil and gas.
Right, Major General, do continue to stay with us. We are taking another breaking update that's coming in now. NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte has said again that 5,000 aircraft have flown from Europe to support military operations against Iran. Now this, as US has just geared up at the fresh launch of attacks and now saying that 5,000 jets has been deployed. Now, Major General, this is a very alarming sign that's coming in from US. And also just recently we have gotten, we got reports that Pete Hegseth, the War General, Secretary of War of the U.S., Pete Hegseth, has cancelled his trip to the Israel, and after this announcement was made.
When it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury, and they were
the United Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated cases.
And Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
but still, generally 5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year. So there's still issues we have to solve. But hey, also even on Spain, I would say they got to the 2%. And when it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury, and they were
the United Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated
and
cases.
Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
But still,
come
generally,
to
5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year. So there's still issues we have to solve. But hey, also even on Spain, I would say they go to the 2%. And when it comes to Iran.
All right, we are going to take another question with Major General on this. You may have heard Mark Rutte once again saying that, Major General, he said that 5,000 US jets has been deployed to support. Once again, he said that to support Operation Fury, saying that this is back on track. And Major General, I'd like to comment on that because this is in fact alarming. Just moments ago, Pete Hegseth has cancelled his scheduled visit to Israel and has gone back to United States. And now with this latest announcement by Mark Rutte against the backdrop of the NATO summit and this announcement by the US President, 5,000 jets have been deployed to support Operation Fury. Once again, your comments on this, sir.
See, I think this is a very, very significant development because earlier NATO was not part of this war. And even till yesterday, NATO expressed solidarity with President Trump but did not indicate that they will join the war. But today, as we are seeing on your screen, 5,000 NATO aircrafts are going to be lined up to participate in this war. So now a major escalation is taking place now. So it seems now that it is, it is going to go to the culmination point, and US and the allies are not going to halt now. And this will be a major offensive and a major destruction of Iran. It will also not be limited to military targets now, because in case you want to put a country into submission, it will be something like what has happened in Gaza. So what we will see now is a mass destruction of the civilian infrastructure, energy infrastructure, as well as the military infrastructure, all in totality. So I think it's a very bad news as far as the world global economy is concerned, because this is going to push the war into a new dimension, which I was visualizing the worst case scenario.
That's right. Major General, continue to stay with us. We also are joined by my colleague Ishita from the newsroom, who has more details into this. Ishita, I'd like to know more from you on this latest announcement from Mark Rutte. He says 5,000 jets, US jets, have been deployed to support Operation Fury. This statement he made on the NATO summit that's being held in Turkey. Give us more on that, Ishita, on the latest
right, of course, Amrita,
on the war.
We're looking at a very big statement coming in from NATO chief. Mark has now said that about 5,000 aircrafts will be flown in from Europe to support US operations against Iran. Now, what we're witnessing right now is a change of heart as far as the NATO allies are concerned, because you and I have been reporting on Iran war before as well. And we saw earlier, NATO took a very defiant stand. They were very clear that this is not our war, this is a Donald Trump's war, and it is a US war against Iran. But this time, what we're looking at is a NATO chief weighing in, saying that the strikes conducted by US on Iran's southern coastal cities were very necessary. He's trying to give a justification of the latest attacks carried out by the US against Iranian targets, and also saying that this time NATO will be coming in for more support. And this is why these escalations, in fact, are bigger at this time. And as Major General Rajan Kochar also mentioned, that next 48 hours will be very crucial to see where this war escalates, because already Donald Trump has declared that the MOU that was signed between Iran and the US as of this moment now stands cancelled.
That's right. Thank you so much, Ishta, for all of those details. And we are going to take another breaking news that's coming in now. US airstrikes again have hit at the Shahid Haqqani port. Now, viewers, this as the war in the region continues to escalate, there may be a resumption of this war. Now, NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte has said that US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary as well. And now, viewers, so we're continuing to tracking these stories and more on the latest escalation. Now, coming up after a very short break, NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte has said that US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Coming up after a very short break.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ।
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट, ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े। चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
By the way, viewers, I'm driving in Delhi with Delhi wala boy Aman Gupta, who is too busy waving to his fans than talking to me. Please come down to earth, Aman.
Yes, I am sorry.
You're on my show. This is not your show. This is my show. Stop waving to your fans. Be modest. Now everybody look. अरे आप politician हो. आप politician हो. आप ये क्या कर रहे हो? This is too much. आपने बोला humble हो, मैं humble हो रहा हूँ.
US coming up after a very short break. NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte says US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary, even as it gets heated up between US and Iran once again. Coming up next.
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा से MTH का जल जीरा जीरा से
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
AU करंट अकाउंट के साथ मिलता है फ्री UPI QR ओवरड्राफ्ट फैसिलिटी और एक ही ऐप से बैंक के सारे काम। AU
सोच बदलो और बैंक भी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
यानी इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बनाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है, स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चंकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk tonight about an incident where an FIR got registered against 4 people. This is an incident which has happened in Madhya Pradesh, in Ujjain, and there is this strange video which shows a van suspended about 40 feet in the air. And it's suspended with a crane, some kind of a huge big crane. And there are explosives which are put inside this van, and then the van is detonated. Watch this very carefully, ladies and gentlemen. This is apparently during a Muharram procession where the organizers fill a car with explosives, lift it 40 feet in the air with explosives, put a slogan on the vehicle saying, "Le fir aage," which means, look, we are back. And then they explode the van.
NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte says US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Stay tuned.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है, अरे मेरे राजा।
सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ।
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया?
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday I said that Bhagwan Man's problem is that in the process of covering up one lie, he is lying a second time. So to cover 2 lies, he lies a 3rd time and a 4th time. And now he's in a big trap. He is doing everything possible to save his job. But it's going to become more and more difficult for him. Plus, I think he has some very foolish advisors. You see, this controversy is about a younger Bhagwant Mann. He's about 52 years now, 52 or 53. And the video apparently goes back to the time he was 39 years old. This is a video he's released. Let me first show you the other video, the controversial video. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a picture of Bhagwant Mann at the age of 39. And visibly, over the last 13 years, he's aged. There's nothing wrong with that. We all age. But there's a distinct difference in facial appearance. I'd like to show you a picture of Bhagwant Mann at present, which is about 52, 53 years old. And Bhagwant Mann on the other side at the age of 39, when he was a performer. Well, he is still a performer in a way, but there's a distinct physical difference.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello viewers, a very good afternoon. In fact, it's evening now and we are getting our viewers all the top updates coming in here on Republic TV. Now, Donald Trump has called Iran scum, sick people before saying that the ceasefire is over. Well, this is a huge escalation coming in as US strikes were reported in Iran recently as well. Oil prices jumping a lot. We have to decode, but the headlines first. Let's get started.
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people.
War again in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire is over with Iran, calls Iranian liars and scum.
Your reaction on the recent US attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary.
NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte says US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Iranian Foreign Ministry response to US strikes on Iran says the MOU has been grossly violated. Republic investigation forces Meta to issue detailed India-specific response on child sexual abuse content available on its platform despite repeated flagging. Meta goes all defensive, refuses to take ownership for removal of child sexual abuse content after Republic's big expose. Republic continues investigation in Meta child sexual abuse scandal after the social media giant refuses to take down disturbing content. Viewers, it looks like things are getting out of control once again when it comes to Middle East and West Asia. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says a new attack by the US and Iran was absolutely necessary. When you have a ceasefire and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, I think it is totally crucial that the US forcefully reacts. This is very important. Why is it important, viewers? Because once again, we see that both Iran and America, who by the way tried to come up with a peace deal and they were very excited about it. So was the world. It looks like things have gone backward to square one. And the latest update we're getting for you is that a NATO General Secretary is at 5,000 aircraft to support the United States. US-Iran truce remains uncertain. President Trump says he believes the MOU with Tehran is over, but that negotiators can keep talking if they want after the US and Iran exchange strikes across the Middle East. Big doubts on what is happening when we talk about the ongoing talks, and oil prices are jumping after Trump's comments made at the NATO summit in Turkey. NATO nations will be supporting US. That's also very concerning in terms of escalation. I really want to go ahead and play out some reactions.
And when it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury, and they were
the United
totally
Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated
and
cases.
Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
but still, generally, 5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year. So there's still issues we have to solve. But hey, also even on Spain, I would say they go to the 2%. And when it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury, and they were
the
totally
United
fine.
Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated
and
cases.
Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
but still, generally, 5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year. So there's still issues we have to solve. But hey, also even on Spain, I would say they go to the 2%.
Getting some more breaking news coming in. EU is telling airlines not to fly over Iraq and Iran airspaces, viewers. So now, of course, this means that things are getting a little bit dangerous. That means more strikes could be happening. So European Union Aviation Safety Agency has told airlines that they should not, I repeat, they should not even try to operate within the airspace of Iran and Iraq. And they've given a deadline, August 31st, till August 31st, at least they should avoid, as US attacks on Iran are ongoing. The agency's previous warning, which expires on July 8th, including Lebanon. It had also asked airlines to exercise caution in the airspace of Bahrain, Kuwait, Israel, Jordan, Qatar, Oman, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. So big updates coming in here on Republic TV. And Iran is also firing on commercial vessels in Oman's territorial waters. So US strikes were reported in Iran. Iran is firing on commercial vessels. EU Aviation Agency telling airlines they should not fly over Iran or Iraq because situation is looking very, very tense there. Tehran has said that ships must gain permission to traverse the strait along routes approved by its officials and warned against using a route closer to Omani coast. So Tehran also giving a bit of notice on this front. Both sides being extremely careful. All right, let's go across to our guests who are joining us. Mr. Terry Newman, Chairman, Public Directors of BINA Tel Aviv, and Group Captain R.S. Mehta, West Asia Expert, live from New Delhi. Joining us right now on Republic. I just want to go across to Mr. Newman first, and then I'll go across to Group Captain R.S. Mehta. Mr. Newman, remember that when the MOU between Iran and US was signed, Israel wasn't too happy about that. You know, they thought that they are being left out. In fact, I think we had spoken to you earlier on this, and they were not confident at all about the MOU, and that's exactly what is happening, Mr. Newman.
Yeah, I think it's wrong to call it an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. It's an MOM, a Memorandum of Misunderstanding. This document was a framework through which to work through the various open issues. It didn't solve the open issues. And what we're seeing now is what was always warned about that the Iranians will, blatantly breach all of their commitments. Now, one of the main reasons, in fact, probably the main reason why the Americans agreed to this MOM was to get ships out of the Straits of Hormuz. Let's understand that there you have ships that are not only supplying much of Asia's oil and hydrocarbons. I know India has been massively affected by this, but also huge amounts of fertilizer, which is essential for growing food. And there's a great concern that much of the harvests for the coming year will be affected. And Iran doesn't seem to care about this, but the Americans are trying to get that freed. Unfortunately, despite the efforts to do this ceasefire and get many ships out, which have worked so far, the Iranians have collapsed it. And I think President Trump has kind of said, enough is enough.
Absolutely. Group Captain, I want to come across to you. I also want to ask you, Group Captain, we were all very excited here. In fact, the entire world was breathing a sigh of relief. Okay, oil prices will come down now. Maybe, energy, there was sort of energy crisis because of this situation. And now things are looking very, very concerning once again.
Yep. You're asking me any question?
Yes. Group Captain R.S. Mehta, now how do you see things moving forward? Because there was hope earlier that the things will simmer down, but it looks like it's boiling over.
Okay. Let me start by saying that when this MOU was signed, very few people believed that it is going to see the light of the day and it can sustain itself. I'll tell you why. Because this MOU was not signed in a normal circumstances. This MOU was signed under duress. And let me put a few facts straight. Iran was militarily defeated comprehensively, I would say, substantially. Its war-waging abilities have been degraded to an extent that, no normal nation will even think of continuing the war. But we should also understand that Iran is not a normal country. It is a revolutionary, it calls itself Islamic revolutionary country. And they have a mentality that they will never give up. Even the last person, they will never give up. So forget about thinking in terms of defeating Iran. Iran, even in defeat, will continue fighting. So that is the situation we are here. Now, what has happened? What was the duress? Duress was that America, rather Trump, is working under the pressure of the coming midterm elections. Now, he has gone to the war for a certain purpose. Obviously, I don't have to explain that purpose has not been fully met. But now that election is round the corner, he wants to make the best out of it. And to do that, he wants
Group Captain,
oil prices to be down.
You can go ahead and yes, you can tell the purpose.
To be open.
Group Captain, what was the purpose? You said that you don't want to mention it, but you can go ahead and mention it. What was the purpose which was not fulfilled? So our viewers get a better idea.
Yeah, of course. Modern armies and a nation goes to war with very specific war objectives and political purpose. Now, obviously, there was a problem. Problem was that Iran had developed into a country, a power that was destabilizing not only Middle East, but the entire world. Its policies are such that it wants the destruction of Israel, it wants destruction of America, it wants to dominate the Middle East. And then it had was at the brink of acquiring the nuclear weapon. And it had amassed a huge arsenal of missiles, which was threatening all the local Arab leaders. Now, this has to be tackled.
Group Captain and Mr. Newman, I'll come back to both, I guess. I really want to go ahead and take our viewers to the big breaking news coming in, because we're talking about US airstrikes at a port in Iran. This is the Haqqani port, and fresh visuals coming in from overnight strikes conducted at Iranian cities, areas of the one from especially the Shahid Haqqani. US military completes new round of attacks, striking 80 targets in Iran, including air defenses. radar sights missile systems. Central Command releasing these videos and pictures. Okay, let's put them out for you on your screen. You can see that a couple of ports are being hit. Global markets are crashing. Especially US has struck the southern Iranian region. A lot is happening right now. And of course, whenever this happens, a lot of questions are being raised because Iran has fired on 3 commercial vessels in Oman's territorial waters near the Strait of Hormuz. So it's happening from both sides, not just happening from US's side, it's happening from Iran's side as well. I want to go across to our guest, Mr. Newman, coming across to you right now. Mr. Newman, do you remember when President Trump told Netanyahu that he has to get himself under control when it comes to striking Lebanon and Hezbollah? But it looks like President Trump himself is struggling to keep the peace deal running between Iran and the US.
There is no peace deal between Iran and the US. There was an MOM, a Memorandum of Misunderstanding, which was brokered by the Pakistanis, which in effect allowed both sides to claim completely different victories. I'll just give you one example which links to the Lebanon issue. In the MOM signed between Iran and the USA, it called for Hezbollah to be allowed to stay inside of Lebanon, and for Iran to in effect keep on controlling Lebanon. Whereas in the agreement that was signed 2 weeks ago under Marco Rubio between the Lebanese government and the Israeli government, it specifically called for Iranian-influenced Hezbollah to leave Lebanon. So, this is not the case. I don't think this ceasefire will hold. And notwithstanding what my colleague here has said, I still believe that in the long term, a world will not be able to live with a nuclear Iran run by this regime. And because nuclear technology is, it's about 90 years old, at the end, everybody who really wants to achieve it will be able to achieve it, which means that regime change is absolutely essential. We have to make sure that the regime is changed there before they get their hands on nuclear weapons.
Absolutely. Mr. Newman, I want you to hold on. Also, I'm asking Group Captain Mehta to also hold on. We're getting some more breaking news coming in. I'll come to you, Group Captain, so you can help our viewers understand what is happening. The ground input coming from Iran, strike more intense. Ground report from Iran. Strike 5 times bigger than before. Iran ground input says expect bigger response post-funeral. Iran likely to launch bigger offensive after the Khomeini funeral. And there's so much to unpack here. I want to go back to Group Captain Mehta on this. Firstly, we see that the Khomeini funeral is happening in Iraq. So there's always this danger of the Middle East coming together. Secondly, do you think the sanctions are going to come back? Do you think diplomacy is dead? Well, at least for now. Yes, Group Captain Mehta.
You see, what we are going through is an ongoing process. It is not a beginning and end. So this war is not yet over. Many people thought that the war is over. No, war has got certain objective. There is a problem that has to be dealt with. And unless that problem is dealt with, this war is not going to stop. It can have pauses. And that is what had happened. And you were telling that sanction will be back. Yes, sanction is already back. They have revoked the sale of oil. They will not allow now. America has said so. But this is a coercive diplomacy that is going on. You hammer your opponent and then try to extract concession. Iran is also doing it. It's not only America who is doing it. Iran is also firing missiles, firing at these vessels, defenseless vessels, only to put pressure on America to agree for certain things. So let us not ever think that this thing has concluded. This is an ongoing process. Many ups and downs are still in the coming on the way. Yeah, I was telling this was signed under duress because Mr. Trump wanted the prices to be oil prices to be down, and he wanted Hormuz to be open at any cost. And that cost was a little horrible to look very unusual for many, and my Israeli colleagues, definitely, they were very much constrained by what all was going on, which means America put its prestige at stake. America accepted, the team negotiating with Iran had accepted such horrible terms, which was unimaginable. So much so that it was almost, world was started calling that America has capitulated and accepted defeat. Now, why did Trump had all the cards in his hand? Militarily, America can still do a lot. But why Trump was doing was because he was under duress. Now, there is a limit. Iran is misreading Trump's resolve and America's military might, and of course, the America and its allies' resolve to solve the problem. And therefore, it wants to extract maximum concession out of this team. And when it crosses the line, that red line, I mean, there is a limit to the tolerance.
Group Captain, I really want you to hold on for a second there. We understand, and our guests are decoding everything for us. I'm getting some more breaking news coming in for our viewers. Iran's statement on America's overnight strikes. Iran claims it targeted 85 U.S. military sites in Bahrain, Kuwait. Iran says ready for decisive action against U.S. violation. Huge updates coming in here. Let's go across to my colleague Ishita joining us from our Republic newsroom. Okay, Ishita, Iran claims it targeted 85 U.S. military sites. Escalation. This is huge. 85 sites. Ishita, over to you.
Like we're back to square one right after US conducted strikes against coastal Iran. In southern Iran, over 80 sites were struck. We're now looking at Iran also hitting back against US targets across Kuwait and Bahrain. Now, about 85 strikes have been struck across these Western nations, and these are the ballistic missiles being launched by Iran. These are drone attacks being conducted by IRGC against the US assets spread across West Asia. So this is what we had witnessed over the 3-month war before as well. And now, right after US conducted strikes against the coastal cities of Iran, Iran is also hitting back. In fact, Iran has said that this is just the beginning, a trailer of what is yet to come. Now, tomorrow we understand that the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei will be laid to rest in his hometown of Mashhad. So we understand that a bigger escalation could come in right after that happens. Iran, in fact, could now respond more decisively to the US strikes after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is laid to rest. So what we're looking at is a bigger escalations that are now being witnessed in West Asia.
Absolutely,
Shivangi, at the moment.
Ishita, I want to take some breaking news and then I'll come back to our guests on this. Iran claims major violation of MOU by America. Iran claims US violating adjustments in Strait of Hormuz. The era of bullying and extortion is over. Iran is saying the era of bullying is over. I want to go and take some quick reactions from our guest, Mr. Newman. Iranian President Pezeshkian says that US government's conduct as World Cup host follows its familiar foreign policy. Bending rules, bullying rivals, creating obstacles. This is what that they are saying. Iran is saying that the time of American bullying is over. But is it? Because we know that President Trump keeps making these threats again and again.
So I would remind the Iranian president that the Iranian Revolution, which happened in 1979, has turned one of the most economically successful, academically successful, forward-looking Middle Eastern countries into a backward country with horrendous human rights, with the hangings in the streets, with populations that are rising up against it, such that they have to kill tens of thousands of them to try and keep order. With all the criticism that he may have regarding Donald Trump and his behavior at the World Cup, I think America is a far bigger success story. The US stock market, US military power, it's just stupid. These are comments of someone who is creating problems on purpose. I'm actually amazed this memorandum of misunderstanding was so good for the Iranians.
Absolutely, Mr. Newman.
I'm amazed that they're doing their best in order to
We're running out of time. I'll just take one final comment from Group Captain Mehta. Any last comments, Group Captain, before we wrap this show? Yes, Group Captain.
Yeah. See, this the trajectory that this war is taking will now hinge on Iran's ability to fire the missile and cause damage to the US and its allies. Now, what we have seen, Iran has capacity to still fire, but how much damage it can cause is yet to be seen. Out of 10 or 20 missiles that it is firing, hardly 1 or 2 is hitting its target. So that's not a very good score. So if that continues, then you take it for me that not much can be Iran will be able to do. Whereas the US and its allies have total air superiority over Iran. And this is a very bad situation for any country. So they can hit any target at any time with impunity, and Iran just can't stop it. You have seen 80 targets and all strikes, and all has met the target. And these targets are not ordinary targets. These targets are very specific military targets, which is further degrading Iran's ability to cause damage in this war to its adversary. So if this continues, then it is a foregone conclusion. And moreover, understand that Iran is now split. There is a faction that wants to have a deal with America and have a peace. But there is one faction that is led by IRGC, which is not ready. And therefore, there is an infighting as well.
That is
so
right.
it is a very good...
I just request Group Captain and Mr. Newman to stay on with us because we are taking a short break right now. I want both our guests to stay. We will continue discussing this. Much more coming up, viewers, on the other side. Vote again in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire is over with Iran, calls Iranian liars and scum. Things looking out of control between America and Iran. Stay tuned.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बनाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और परेशान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे, केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
Shame on Meta. Shame on Mark Zuckerberg. Shame on every member of the senior management of Meta. Shame on the Indian bosses of Meta. And I'm not talking about some distant Silicon Valley scandal. I'm talking about what Meta is doing to children. I'm talking about what Meta is doing to our children. I'm talking about sexual abuse, pedophilia, and child pornography being encouraged by Mark Zuckerberg. I'm talking about the sexual abuse of toddlers, babies, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old children, about them being sexually abused and turned into commercial products to make Mark Zuckerberg richer by one of the richest companies on earth, which is so greedy that they want to market, commercialize, algorithmically encourage such child sexual abuse material, CSAM, to pedophiles. Mark Zuckerberg, is this what it's come down to? A commercial exploitation to promote pedophilia. This is a very serious matter because Meta, earlier known as Facebook, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, has once more been caught red-handed. This time it is for commercializing pedophilia. Let me repeat that in case you are struck by disbelief. Meta has been caught red-handed commercializing pedophilia. Child sexual abuse material is very, very concerning. It's CSAM. Now this child sexual abuse material or CSAM content is running on Instagram which is commercializing pedophilia, isn't it? These are not some shady links. Meta is earning money from them. CSAM content features children as young as 7 to 8 years old. We are allowing it. Meta is trying to be smart. Shut down Meta. Shut down Meta. Teach Meta a lesson. If it does not stop, punish them. Algorithmically, they are directing users to channels where sexual abuse material is being sold. This is not content moderation failure. This is not a mistake they don't know about. This is commercialization of child sexual abuse. If you push CSAM content on your platform and your algorithm leads this material to pedophiles, it's dangerous. This is not me saying it. It is the US court also in New Mexico which said that Meta has allowed Facebook and Instagram to become a marketplace for predators in search of children upon whom to prey. This is not negligence. This is active participation in the sexual exploitation of children for profit. And yet, despite openly defying the Indian government norms and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology summoning them, the child abuse videos have not been taken down yet. Republic's investigative team has been finding out, and we find shockingly, that child abuse videos are still freely available now. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, we found 9 child abuse videos showing up in 5 minutes today. And we have been following this up, and when we follow it up, we are told we cannot remove this content because according to Facebook, this does not go against their community standards. What standards? Shame on Meta. What standards are these, Mark Zuckerberg? We want to know. And in America, they have been caught for similar stuff. There was a case in 2026 when the jury...
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people.
Top headlines. War again in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire is over, but Iran calls Iranian liars and big scums.
What is your reaction on the recent US attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary.
NATO, meanwhile, backs US strikes. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Iranian Foreign Ministry US strike says ceasefire MOU grossly violated. Republic investigation forces Meta to issue detailed India-specific response on child sexual abuse content available on Facebook and Instagram. Meta goes all defensive, refuses to take ownership for removal of the child sexual abuse content after big Republic exposing. Meanwhile, Republic continues to investigate Meta child sexual abuse scandal after the social media giant refuses to take down disturbing content. Hello viewers, we are live and breaking. A very good evening. I'm Shivangi Shukla getting you the latest coming in. Getting you some big updates as escalation continues between Iran and United States. EU Aviation Agency tells airlines to avoid Iraq airspace. European Union Aviation Safety Agency has told the airlines that they should not operate within the airspace of Iran and Iraq until August 31st as US attacks on Iran are ongoing. The agency's previous warning, which expires on July 8th, included Lebanon. In fact, it had also asked airlines to exercise caution in the airspace of Bahrain, Kuwait, Israel, Jordan, Qatar, Oman, and UAE and Saudi Arabia. All right, let's go across to our guests who are joining us once again. Mr. Terry Newman, Chairman, Public Directors of BINA, Tel Aviv, is joining us. And then I think later on we'll be joined by other guests. Mr. Newman, now, like you said, this is not an MOU. In fact, it's now something else. You said it's a misunderstanding, not an understanding. Now, we talk about EU. EU is taking some precautions already because EU always wanted peace. They've tried their best. It's not happening. So they have told airlines to avoid Iran and Iraq. Yes, Mr. Newman.
But Europe hasn't wanted peace. Europe just hasn't wanted to get involved. Europe has just wanted the flow of oil to continue and for other people to do the dirty work of looking after the shipping lanes of the world. But if we stay within the context of the World Cup, America might have been kicked out of the World Cup. They lost their previous game. But if Iran is not playing by the rules, America is red carding them. They're saying enough is enough. J.D. Vance tried his best. He set up this MON, this Memorandum of Misunderstanding, and it hasn't worked. And therefore, America, that is still going to have to be the sheriff in the world, is giving as referee, is giving a red card to the Iranians. That's what we're seeing.
Right. What about NATO? NATO is saying that we will support US, but what does this really mean when NATO says they will support United States?
Well, if you take into account that there is currently meetings going on in Ankara, in the capital of Turkey, of NATO nations, well, Turkey said that they were going to get involved in the war on the side of Iran. Turkey currently have in large containers Russian S-400 missiles. So I'm not quite sure what the role of NATO is in this situation. And in actual fact, if you look at the build up to this war, Trump and America trusted more in Israel, in its Gulf allies, than it did in NATO itself. And I think that says a lot for the future of the NATO organization and where it's going.
That's right. In fact, NATO chief Mark Rutte has said that US strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. We'll come back to that. We're getting some breaking news coming in for our viewers, Mr. Newman. So let's go ahead and tell our viewers what is happening. We'll talk about the US strikes at different ports in Iran. Shahid Haqqani port, fresh visuals coming in from overnight strikes conducted at Iranian cities. This one is from the Haqqani area. US military completes a new round of attacks, striking 80 targets in Iran, including air defenses, radar sites, missile systems. 85 plus, more than 85 plus Iranian targets have been hit in strikes. That's a huge amount, Mr. Newman. I will come across to you. But before that, let's have a look at those visuals which show the strikes. Okay, there you go. Those are the visuals which are clearly showing the surge of attacks.
Whoa. 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 Whoa.
All right, let's get some more breaking news coming in. We saw some videos from Central Command there, but let's talk about Iran. Ground input from Iran strike are more intense. Ground report from Iran strikes 5 times bigger than before. And Iran ground input says expect bigger response post-funeral. And Iran could be launching bigger offensive after the Khomeini funeral. So this is what we see right now from both sides, Mr. Newman. It's very obvious. And in the past, we have seen the same, that once US escalates, Iran escalates too. They outdo each other. Both parties do not back down. And that's exactly what we are seeing here, Mr. Newman. Yes, Mr. Terry Newman.
Yes, I mean, the Iranians are using what's called asymmetric warfare. They don't actually think that they can beat the strongest military force in the world, but what they're trying to do is suck America in. This goes to show again, despite over a month of attacks that were almost exclusively on military targets, Iran still has huge military power, which is why this regime has to be changed. They are, openly stating that they are a revolutionary Islamist regime that is trying to export their ideology to the rest of the Middle East. They've already taken over capitals of 4 other Middle Eastern countries. They've taken over Beirut, Syria, Baghdad, and in Yemen. Now, in Syria, we've managed to get rid of them. In Beirut, there's currently the battle is going on, and there was just a deal signed between Israel and the Lebanese government, but we don't know whether we will succeed. And this is why they have to be removed. This regime is a cancer that's spreading its disease throughout the Middle East. And I would also be concerned as an Indian. You have a large and very impressive Shiite community there. You don't want that revolutionary ideology taking over and threatening India.
All right. Mr. Newman, I wanted to hold on for a second. We're getting some more breaking news coming in. Iran's statement on America's overnight strikes. Iran claims it targeted 85 U.S. military sites in Bahrain, Kuwait. Iran says ready for decisive action against U.S. violation. And like we were discussing earlier, Iran really not backing down here. And earlier we had spoken about Iran calling America a big bully. A big bully. This is what Iran is saying. And we're getting some more breaking news coming in. Let's go ahead to that. Speaking about bullying, Iran claims major violation of MOU by America. Iran claims US violating adjustments in Strait of Hormuz. Iran says the era of bullying and extortion is over. This is exactly what we were discussing. I want to go straight across to Mr. Newman, Terry Newman, again, who's joining us from Tel Aviv. Mr. Newman, let's talk about name calling here. Iran saying era of bullying and extortion is over. US President Trump saying the people of Iran itself is sick. They are scums, and he cannot even have proper negotiating talks with them. So name calling is back.
President Trump is correct. This is a revolutionary regime that took over a very successful Middle Eastern country. Iran has turned it into the Iranian revolutionary Islamist country that it is at the moment. And in the process suppressing 50% of the population, all of the women, and also large parts of the Azaris as well, and other minorities. It has destabilized and taken over large parts of Iraq, done the same in Syria, done the same in Beirut, done the same in Yemen. And President Trump has, despite being advised by many in his own cabinet not to deal with them, listened to Vice President Vance, and it appears Kushner and Witkoff went along the lines of this memorandum of misunderstanding, and it is now blowing up in everybody's faces. So for Iran to turn around and say that the Americans are the bullies is absolute madness. If Iran hadn't been bullying the entire region, then America wouldn't have needed to come here in the first place.
That's right. I wanted to hold on for a second there, Mr. Newman. We're getting some more breaking news coming in for our viewers. Iranian media publishes footage of Iran's pre-dawn retaliation as the IRGC answers US latest breach of the ceasefire. So one more big breaking news coming in here on Republic TV. In fact, these are the retaliatory strikes that you see on your screen. Exclusive pictures only on Republic TV showing you Iran's retaliatory strikes. This is a video. This is a pre-dawn retaliation. And speaking of IRGC, Mr. Newman, I'm going to come across to you. IRGC has announced new maritime rules to tighten control over the Arabian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz waters. Once again, they are launching these strikes, and we are also getting so many reports. In fact, it is being said that the IRGC has more control than it should, and they are behind these escalations as well.
Yes, I mean, what is going on in the Straits of Hormuz is a blatant breach of international law. Under international law, international waterways belong to nobody. They are free to maritime traffic. You're allowed to take tolls on internal shipping lanes, so shipping lanes that pass solely through your own country. So as an example, the Suez Canal passes solely through Egypt, so they can take a toll. But in the Arab or Persian Gulf, this touches so many countries. It touches Oman, it touches the UAE, it touches Bahrain, it touches Saudi Arabia, it touches Kuwait, it touches Qatar. So who are the Iranians to come and say that everything there belongs to them? It's an outrageous comment. It's international piracy, and they should be treated as the international pirates that they are, and given a red card, as the CENTCOM and the American military and the American government is now correctly doing.
That's right. I want to play out that video of Iranian strikes. Let's play it out for you, viewers. Let's go straight across to my colleague Amrita is also joining us. Mr. Newman will come back to you, but Amrita is joining us from a Republic newsroom. Amrita, what we see is that IRGC has said that, yes, we are still controlling Strait of Hormuz, and we saw visuals of the retaliatory strikes by Iran. Amrita, what else do we have for our viewers?
That's right, Shivangi, and Iran has also responded, and they have also released statements. The Fast News Agency, and they have in fact released these visuals of the attack, and you can that we just saw of one attack that hit around dawn today in the morning, and this after US has claimed that Iran has violated the MOU between the two nations, and Iran continues to allege US has violated, citing that there's several sites have been struck along the Strait of Hormuz. Now, with this latest visuals that we are also tracking from the Fast News Agency, these are images of the dawn attack. This was by the Navy and Aerospace Force of the IRGC, and they said that this was in response to the aggression and the breach of the promise that was made by America's army. That's what they said. They have called the American army very other names as well, which I will not utter on screen here. And this after the MOU has now been that we can now say that is subsequently completely collapsed. Now this, Shivangi, we can now take this on this statement itself that the MOU that was struck in Islamabad and the further talks in Zurich has not come to force. And now we're also getting reports that Iran is also preparing for further retaliation after the funeral ceremony of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, their former supreme leader. We know that there has been a week-long ceremony that's being prepared for the final goodbye by the people of Iran. And we're also getting reports that they will now be finally responding back to these retaliatory attacks by the US and saying that this retaliatory actions will not go mute, will not remain unanswered, and they're saying that they will definitely come back on more aggression to this after the funeral processions and funeral ceremonies are over. Back to you, Shivangi.
That's right. I want to take a final response from Mr. Newman. Mr. Newman, I also want to ask you that we are still waiting for some reactions to come in from Israel. And since you are in Tel Aviv, would you tell our viewers how is Israel reacting to this escalation?
Israel is not surprised. We unfortunately have had to be dealing with this regime now for over 50 years. And we understand who they are, what they want. And, they view America as the great Satan, the big Satan, and Israel as the small Satan. So they've been going after us in order to stage one to then go after America as stage two. So it's a sad state of affairs that we have to deal with evil like this in the world, but we've had to deal with evil like this in the past. Humanity deals with it, and then it will move on. But I expect us to be going through a choppy period in the upcoming months.
Right. I'm getting some more breaking news coming in, Mr. Newman. Let's go across to that. Iran says the Indian oil tanker turned back from Oman corridor in Hormuz. Iran says Indian oil tanker turns back from Hormuz. Indian tanker turns back from Oman corridor. Reports coming in. Okay, not a surprise because Mr. Newman, we were just discussing that IRGC is saying that, in fact, I'll go to Amrita, my colleague, on this, Mr. Newman, and then I'll come across to you. Amrita, not a surprise. IRGC just told a few hours ago that they are controlling Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran says Indian oil tankers turning back from the Oman corridor. Amrita.
That's right, Shivangi. I think with this latest escalation and war resuming back, Iran has once again tried to take a major stake, a major control over the Strait of Hormuz once again, as it did even during the onset of the war when it began in February, and also during the time while negotiations was also going on. Iran continued to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz, and we know what were the consequences globally. The oil prices shot up even today. After this news broke out, oil prices shot up about 6%. And now, in the latest, Iran has said that Indian tanker has been turned back in off the coast of Oman. We know that there are several other Indian flag tankers across the Omani Gulf. That's across this region near the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, and even Shivangi, just a few weeks ago, there have been various escalations of this Omani coast, which is another flashpoint. Now, this is just ahead of the Strait of Hormuz on the map, and now Iran is trying to stake claim over and their control over again. And by turning back an Indian oil tanker, Iran is once again claiming control of that region. And it remains to be seen how the Indian Ministry of External Affairs will respond to that. And this again raises serious questions, and how its consequences will be felt across the globe once again. Shivangi.
That is right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Amrita, and thank you, Mr. Terry Newman, Chairman, Public Directors of BINA from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for joining us and decoding for us the escalation. And we really have to move ahead, viewers. We're getting some more updates coming in right here from Maharashtra. 14, we'll go to that breaking next. 14 trapped in building collapse in Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, building collapses in Pimpri Chinchwad. According to the information coming in, viewers, 14 persons are said to be stranded under the debris. Fire brigade officials have rushed to the spot, and the rescue operations have already begun in this case. So there's a building collapse near Pune amid the very heavy rain. Remember, monsoon fury has hit Maharashtra, and because of that, we are reporting continuously from the ground, telling you about some of the mishaps which have been happening. So 14 are trapped in building collapse in Maharashtra, in Pimpri Chinchwad near Pune. According to the information, 14 people are said to be stranded. Rescue relief operations have begun. You can see the visuals on your screen. The fire brigade officials have rushed to the spot, and the rescue operations have begun. If you were taking a short break, do not go anywhere. War again in West Asia, Trump says. Ceasefire is over with Iran, and calls Iranians liars and scums. President Trump calls Iranians liars, scum, sick people. This is one of the biggest updates we're getting for you in terms of the escalation. Stay tuned. We are live and breaking.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा प्योर मसाला।
AU सेविंग्स अकाउंट में मिलते हैं अमेजिंग बेनिफिट्स, पेपरलेस बैंकिंग एंड हायर इंटरेस्ट, वो भी हर महीने।
मनी 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 एवरीवन।
सोच बदलो और बैंक भी। प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाए जीरा से MTH का जलजीरा जीरा से।
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to a scream. A scream coming from across the line of control. A scream coming from the tortured, hungry and angry people of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And I want to tell them tonight, that we are with you. I want you to notice the genocide that is going on in Pak-occupied Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, Kashmiris are being massacred. There is an open genocide, non-stop firing, grenades being hurled as thousands of people, including women, children and elderly, continue to fight against the ISI regime. They had gathered in the Sardar Ghulam Hussain.
Much coming up, viewers. We are live and breaking. War again in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire with Iran is over. Calls Iranians liars, scum, and sick people.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच, लस्सी और छाछ।
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ, स्वाद आया?
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मम्मा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, मसाला।
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to a scream. A scream coming from across the line of control. A scream coming from the tortured, hungry and angry people of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And I want to tell them tonight, that we are with you. I want you to notice the genocide that is going on in Pak-occupied Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, Kashmiris are being massacred. There is an open genocide, non-stop firing.
War again in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire over with Iran. Calls Iranians liars and scums.
Pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट।
स्वाद बनाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और बरसान। अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
Shame on Meta. Shame on Mark Zuckerberg. Shame on every member of the senior management of Meta. Shame on the Indian bosses of Meta. And I'm not talking about some distant Silicon Valley scandal. I'm talking about what Meta is doing to children. I'm talking about what Meta is doing to our children. I'm talking about sexual abuse, pedophilia, and child pornography being encouraged by Mark Zuckerberg. I'm talking about the sexual abuse of toddlers, babies, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old children, about them being sexually abused and turned into commercial products to make Mark Zuckerberg richer by one of the richest companies on earth, which is so greedy that they want to market, commercialize, algorithmically encourage such child sexual abuse material, CSAM, to pedophiles. Mark Zuckerberg, is this what it's come down to? A commercial exploitation to promote pedophilia. This is a very serious matter because Meta, earlier known as Facebook, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, has once more been caught red-handed. This time it is for commercializing pedophilia. Let me repeat that in case you are struck by disbelief. Meta has been caught red-handed commercializing pedophilia. Child sexual abuse material is very, very concerning. It's CSAM. Now, this child sexual abuse material or CSAM content is running on Instagram, which is commercializing pedophilia, isn't it? These are not some shady...
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello viewers, a very good evening. We are live, we are breaking. I'm Shivangi Shukla getting you the latest coming in. US President Trump says that the ceasefire is over. He is calling Iran scum, sick people, and says that he doesn't have any expectation. Big updates coming in. Escalation continues between Iran and US. We'll tell you everything you need to know, but the headlines first. Let's get started.
I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people.
More again in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire is over. Veteran calls Iranian liars and big scums.
What's your reaction on the recent US attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary.
NATO, meanwhile, backs US strikes. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Iranian Foreign Ministry says US strikes and ceasefire was grossly violated by the ceasefire. Republic investigation forces Meta to issue detailed India-specific response on child sexual abuse content available on Facebook and Instagram. Meta goes all defensive, refuses to take ownership for removal of child sexual abuse content after big Republic expose. Meanwhile, Republic continues to investigate in Meta child sexual abuse scandal after the social media giant refuses to take down disturbing content. Hello viewers, let's go and tell you and show you some pictures. That is right, Iran's pre-dawn retaliation as the IRGC answers US latest breach of the ceasefire. What is happening right now as we speak is very, very clearly an escalation between Iran and the US. You can see the pictures which have been posted, exclusive pictures which are coming in first on Republic TV, where we see that IRGC is holding these or firing these strikes towards US bases specifically. US-Iran strikes have resumed and both sides have accused each other once again. The blame game is back. I repeat, the blame game is back. Both sides have accused each other of violating the Memorandum of Understanding which was signed in June itself. The US launching strikes on Iran, Iran launching counter-strikes on US bases. Okay, let's go straight across to a guest who's joining us. Dr. Daniel Pipes, Middle East historian and strategic affairs commentator from Florida, USA. Thank you for joining us here. I want to come across to you and Doctor, and really understand, Dr. Pipes, that what exactly are we seeing on our screens? We see that both Iran and the US have stepped up attacks on each other. What happened to the MOU, Dr. Pipes?
The MOU was an almost complete capitulation by the United States government to the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's deeply unpopular in the United States. The president is aware that it is unpopular. And so therefore he has decided more or less to end it. Now with Donald Trump, you never know quite what he's going to do next, but he has both officially ended the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, and also sent his negotiators to talk to the Iranians. So it's chaos, as it has been now in this war since it began in late February. It's complete chaos. The Iranian leadership, in contrast to Trump, is very determined. It's split, but it's very determined in its different ways. And the reason why the Iranian regime has not kept to the MOU, which by objective standards would seem to be a wonderful deal for it, is because there are elements, strong elements within the regime that wish to press further and get more advantage. There's a debate in Iran. Should they accept this excellent ending, or should they go for even more? And it looks like those who want to go for even more are determined to get it. I think it's a big mistake on the Iranian side, but don't ask me to predict what Donald Trump is going to do. Nobody knows, including himself.
Absolutely, but it is a big chaos, Dr. Pipes, like you are saying. I really wanted to hold on, Dr. Pipes. We're getting some more breaking news coming in right now for our viewers. UAE Presidential Advisor Anwar Gargash condemned Iran's attacks on Qatari and Saudi commercial tankers in Strait of Hormuz, along with repeated aggression against Bahrain and Kuwait, stating that these actions show Tehran remains incapable of committing to de-escalation and turning the page on war. He emphasized the Gulf Arab states cannot continue to serve as targets for Iran's wavering between escalation and the path of rationality, stability and peace. Okay, so we will be getting our viewers all these updates coming in. UAE is condemning the strikes, Iran attack on Qatar and Saudi tankers. Let's go back to Dr. Pipes, who's joining us. Dr. Pipes, once again, we see that when it comes to the Middle East region, we have seen some countries within the Middle East have condemned Iranian strikes. We have seen that earlier as well. Dr. Pipes, what I'm trying to ask you is that, is Iran only concerned with US bases in the Middle East, or do they have any other agenda in mind?
Oh, certainly a much grander agenda than pushing out American forces from West Asia. The Iranians wish to dominate the region and indeed the world. They have unlimited ambitions. So getting rid of American bases is just the first very small step towards that much, much larger goal.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Pipes, you're speaking about, I just want to go back to what is happening in the Middle East. Speaking about the funeral of the slain Supreme Leader Khomeini, that is also something that we will be talking about here on Republic TV. Do you think that it's a farewell of the Supreme Leader Khomeini, the former Supreme Leader, that is happening live as we speak? Or is Iran trying to send a geopolitical message to the region through Khomeini's funeral?
Well, both. It is both an emotional farewell from his few supporters, though they seem to be many because they've been pushed to be on the streets. It's also, more importantly, a statement of intent that we are not just as strong as he was, but we are stronger. And indeed, they are even more hostile to the United States and to Israel than Khamenei, the father, was. So it's a new regime, and it's one which has much smaller influence from the religious leadership and much more from the military leadership, the IRGC that you mentioned earlier. It is essentially a military regime at this point with a clerical overlay, a window dressing.
That's right. Okay. Dr. Pipes, I really wanted to hold on for a second there. We're getting some reactions coming in from EU foreign policy chief. So we'll get to know what the EU is thinking about this. EU is saying that Iran's attacks on ships near the Strait of Hormuz violate its commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding, calling its attack on Bahrain, Kuwait unacceptable, and adding that EU foreign ministers will meet Gulf counterparts next Monday to discuss implementing the agreement and preserving freedom of navigation. Iran's strike on Bahrain and Kuwait unacceptable. EU foreign ministers to hold a meeting next Monday. Dr. Pipes, thinking about and getting EU back in the picture, The European Union has always asked for de-escalation. This is what they have been saying. In fact, when the MOU was signed between Iran and US, many EU nations said they will lift sanctions from Iran. But now, how do you see things progressing forward?
Well, I think the Europeans are unhappily going along with the United States because they want lower energy prices, and also because there is a NATO meeting as we speak in Ankara, Turkey, and they want to please Trump. They don't want to aggravate him. They don't want him to say, I'm finished with NATO, I'm pulling all American troops from Europe. So I think it's got both a larger and a smaller, more direct, immediate purpose, which is to appease Donald Trump.
That's okay. All right. Okay, Dr. Pipes, I really want you to hold on for a second there. We will talk about what's happening in Iran. Ground reports from Iran indicate that recent strikes have become far more intense and repeat up to 5 times larger than before, prompting expectations of a significantly bigger Iranian response once Khomeini's funeral ceremonies conclude. And strikes will become more intense. Iran saying that this is the beginning. After Khomeini's funeral ceremonies conclude, Amrita, I'm getting you in right now, our colleague from Republic Newsroom. Iran making it clear that after Khomeini's funeral is over, which is happening right now as we speak, things are going to get much worse in terms of strikes from Iran's side. Yes, Amrita, that's a warning coming in.
That's right, Shivangi. A big warning, and also a kind of a that we can expect that something that we can expect that this war resumption after about a few lull during the negotiation period might be even more intense than it was the last time. This is a big warning. Even though Donald Trump has said that Iran has decimated Iran's nuclear weapons, Iran's missile and the missile silos have all been decimated. Now Iran once again says that after the funeral ceremonies of the former supreme leader is concluded that they will strike more, and now they are saying that this strike will be 5 times more intense, and they are not backing down, which is even more concerning, because US has and NATO asked the United States president is meeting with NATO allies even as we speak in Turkey, and they are also discussing about these things. And we know that recently, just moments ago, Pete Hegseth has turned back on a scheduled visit from Israel, going back to America, and saying that that's also in the preparation for such war deployment and how the US will be tackling these latest escalations. And now Iran is also not backing down, which raises a big concern. They're saying that, in fact, up to 5 times larger than before. How might that be? Because already with this latest escalation today, there have been severe consequences. The Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. It's de facto blocked, as we can say that just moments ago an Indian flag tanker has been turned back. And now with global oil prices now continues to shoot up, and with this 5 times more intense escalations, if it breaks out, the world watches as another region, as another war engulfs the region of West Asian war. More casualties definitely will be seen, and if possible, it may be right to avert it. But with Donald Trump's stance saying that MOU is now completely over, it raises a huge alarm. With Iran also not backing down, saying that they will be retaliating back once the funeral procession of their supreme leader is over. Back to you, Shivangi.
That's right. I also want to go back to Dr. Pipes on this. Dr. Pipes, I have so much to ask on this. But let's talk a little bit more about Dr. Pipes, that what President Trump said. President Trump said negotiating is going on, negotiations are going on, but they are yielding no results. And he is also saying that Iran will continue making nuclear weapons. Iran has never said they will make nuclear weapons, but that's what President Trump believes is going to happen. And this is happening when both US and Iran were supposed to come down to details and understanding when it comes to uranium enrichment.
The Iranians have always denied that they're planning to build a bomb, yet their actions have been consistent with intending to build a bomb, an atomic nuclear weapon. So the rhetoric coming out of Iran tends to be discounted by any serious analyst who says, look at what they're doing, not at what they're saying. But the nuclear aspect is only one dimension. Many believe that the original impulse was to overthrow the regime in Iran. That clearly did not happen, and indeed seems further away than ever, as the popular uprising that took place in December and January has been nowhere to be seen since the fighting began on February 28th. So the regime is in place, more determined, more hardline than ever.
Yes.
And Donald Trump is faced with this conundrum. What does he do when his action to end the war has failed, and now the prospect of his party losing even more in the November elections becomes ever more a prospect that he has to deal with.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I will stay with this, Dr. Pipes. Getting some more breaking news coming in for our viewers. In a statement on America's overnight strikes, Iran claimed it targeted 85 U.S. military sites in Bahrain, Kuwait, while declaring itself ready for decisive action in response to what it called U.S. violation. Now, Iran has said, Dr. Pipes, Iran has said that America is a bully. America is a bully. America likes to bend rules. This is something that Iran has been saying many times. In fact, Iran accused America of major violation of the Memorandum of Understanding and Adjustments agreed for the Strait of Hormuz, declaring that the era of bullying and extortion is over as tensions escalate following recent strikes. Big update coming in here, viewers of Republic TV. I want to go back to our guest, Dr. Pipes, joining us back. Dr. Pipes, we see that Trump has called Iranians lies, cheats, sick people, and Iran is calling President Trump and America a big bully. They said that America bullies, they like bending rules. Once again, we have gone back to name calling. Not the first time, it's happening again and again. Do you think, for now, diplomacy is dead, at least for now?
No, I don't think so. I think both sides continue to have an interest in it, though the distance between their positions is large and indeed getting larger. So it does not seem like diplomacy has a chance at present. It looks like there needs to be more war and more conclusions drawn from that war before one or the other side makes concessions. The first time around, Donald Trump made concessions. Will he do it a second time? Stay tuned.
That's right. Dr. Pipes, hold on for a second there. Let's talk about NATO. NATO is saying we will stand behind America. NATO Secretary General says 5,000 aircraft have flown from Europe to support military operations against Iran. This is what NATO is saying. And I want to come back to you, sir, Dr. Pipes, but I want to play out that statement first.
And when it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury. And
the United Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated
and
cases.
Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
but still, generally, 5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year. So there's still issues we have to solve. But hey, also even on Spain, I would say they go to the 2%. And when it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury. And
the United Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated
and
cases.
Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
but still, generally, 5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year, so there's still issues we have to solve, but hey, also even on Spain, I would say they go to the 2%.
Dr. Pipes, we heard what NATO said. That was Mark Rutte talking. And what exactly is happening between Trump and NATO? Because NATO is saying that the strikes were necessary against Iran. That's what he said. But in the past, Donald Trump has said he's very, very disappointed with NATO, saying that some NATO members are refusing to support U.S. military objectives. So what is the relationship between NATO and America, U.S. right now?
Well, Trump's attitude is that the Europeans are rich and they should pay much more for their own defense than they have been doing over the past, especially 3 decades. He has a point. It's correct. The Europeans have not invested in military as they should have. But at this point, what you see, what we now saw twice, is the head of NATO, the Secretary General, Mark Rutte, appeasing Trump, saying, look, we're making every effort, and Trump being still bristly and unhappy and wanting more. This is what that summit is about, is the Europeans, as led by Mark Rutte, saying, look, Donald Trump, we are doing what you wish. Please pay attention. Please be grateful. Please work with us. And he's saying, well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not happy. So it's a drama where Trump has the cards, as it were, in terms of being the key coordinate within NATO, and the rest of NATO saying, please, please, we're paying attention to you. We really care about you. We love you. And he's not convinced.
All right, yes. So there is definitely a lot of to and fro between NATO and America as well, like Dr. Pipes is saying. Thank you, Dr. Pipes. This is a complicated relationship and a complicated situation evolving. But I have to go back to what is happening back here home. Ramesh Mahatre, I repeat, Ramesh Mahatre has been arrested by the Dombivli police. This is in connection with a shocking incident caught on camera. Shiv Sena cooperator Ramesh Mahatre and his associate allegedly assaulted 2 doctors, including a female doctor and 3 female nurses at the KDMC's Shastri Nagar Hospital And the incident has now stemmed from a dispute after doctors advised transferring a pregnant woman for delivery due to occupied NICU beds. Mahatre arrived with supporters, verbally abused staff and physically attacked them, while associates restrained security guards, hospital nurses and staff were left in tears, prompting doctors and nurses to launch a work stoppage protest, halting routine services. Huge updates coming in here. Sena cooperator Mahatre has been arrested after much hue and cry. Revati, after much hue and cry, after many protests, finally action has been taken. Even the Maharashtra government had said that action will be taken. The cooperator who assaulted doctors, like we see on those screens, has been arrested. Big action taken. Yes, Revati.
Right, as you rightly mentioned, now the person who assaulted a doctor and a doctor named Vaibhav in KDMC's hospital now has been arrested. After 24 hours of FIR was registered against him. But now, along with other 3, Ramesh Mahatre, who is the Shiv Sena Shinde-led faction corporator, is now arrested by the Dombivli police. He will be presented before the court tomorrow, which is by law before 24 hours. The accused needs to be presented before the court. The same procedure will happen, and now it will be important to see that what statement does he give, because in the morning while talking to the media, while addressing the media, he said that I can firmly say that I haven't touched any lady, because the lady doctor, Shushti, whose name is Shushti, she is like a daughter to me. So she is my daughter's age actually. So I can firmly say that I haven't touched her. So now it will be important to see that whether they will what does he state in his
absolutely. Revati, thank you for getting us all those details. Republic keeps you on top of every update coming in. I'm taking a short break, viewers. The big global headline: war back in West Asia. Trump says ceasefire is over, with Iran calls Iranians liars and scum, and Iranian call Trump a big bully.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया?
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
AU सेविंग्स अकाउंट में मिलते हैं अमेजिंग बेनिफिट्स, पेपरलेस बैंकिंग एंड हायर इंटरेस्ट, वो भी हर महीने।
मनी 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 एवरी मंथ।
सोच बदलो और बैंक भी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
यानी इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाए जीरा से MTH का जलजीरा जीरा से।
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
Tonight, I would like to warn you that the situation in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is becoming extremely grim. We are getting reports almost every day of the continuing butchery of the Munir army. Asif Munir has told his army and told the security forces and his rangers and the Pakistani army to sharpen their guns against unarmed civilians. Ladies and gentlemen, Asif Munir is planning and preparing for an even bigger bloodbath in POK. Just hours before the All or Nothing march called by the free people of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir on 9th July, Asif Munir's army and the Rangers are preparing to carry out another genocide. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, on the 5th of July, when thousands of Kashmiri men, women, children and even the elderly came out peacefully to participate with white flags, the Pakistan army was surprised to see the numbers increase in Abbaspur, Rawalkot and Muzaffarabad. If you are watching this tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you that this has become an unstoppable protest. These civilians are only asking for electricity and flour, that is atta, from the dams, electricity from the dams they themselves produce power from. What did they get in return? Live bullets, tear gas shells. Ladies and gentlemen, the park rangers and security forces opened fire on these unarmed civilians. Pakistan's forces opened fire. They didn't use tear gas, they used live ammunition on their own people. And things are potentially going to get worse because we know that at least 1,500 people have already been arrested. Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti, all these fake Kashmiri leaders, the people of POK are asking them to speak up for them, but they're looking the other way. Open her mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, she will not speak for Kashmiris. My dear viewers, a senior JAAC leader whose clips have gone viral, Sardar Aman Khan, has been forced to appeal. He says, should we...
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट।
स्वाद बनाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है। स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और परेशान अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
Shame on Meta. Shame on Mark Zuckerberg. Shame on every member of the senior management of Meta. Shame on the Indian bosses of Meta. And I'm not talking about some distant Silicon Valley scandal. I'm talking about what Meta is doing to children. I'm talking about what Meta is doing to our children. I'm talking about sexual abuse, pedophilia, and child pornography. being encouraged by Mark Zuckerberg. I'm talking about the sexual abuse of toddlers, babies, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old children, about them being sexually abused and turned into commercial products to make Mark Zuckerberg richer by one of the richest companies on earth, which is so greedy that they want to market, commercialize, algorithmically encourage such child sexual abuse material, CSAM, to pedophiles. Mark Zuckerberg, is this what it's come down to? A commercial exploitation to promote pedophilia. This is a very serious matter because Meta, earlier known as Facebook, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, has once more been caught red-handed. This time it is for commercializing pedophilia. Let me repeat that in case you are struck by disbelief. Meta has been caught red-handed commercializing pedophilia. Child sexual abuse material is very, very concerning. It's CSAM. Now this child sexual abuse material or CSAM content is running on Instagram, which is commercializing pedophilia, isn't it?
I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people.
Liars, scum, and that they are sick.
Action on the recent US attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary.
NATO, meanwhile, backs US strikes. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says strikes on Iran were absolutely necessary. Iranian Foreign Minister says that ceasefire MOU grossly violated, will hit back. Republic investigation forces Meta to issue detailed India-specific response on child sexual abuse content available on Facebook and Instagram. Meta goes all defensive, refuses to take ownership for removal of child sexual abuse content after big Republic expose. Meanwhile, Republic TV continues to investigate Meta child sexual abuse scandal after the social media giant refuses to take down disturbing content. Very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching Republic TV and I'm Rakshita Mishra with you. Let's start with what's happening in West Asia. Now, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has said that Iranian attacks on ships near the Strait of Hormuz violated the commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding, calling it attacks on Bahrain and Kuwait unacceptable, and adding that EU foreign ministers, the European Union foreign ministers, will meet the Gulf counterparts next Monday to discuss the implementing of the agreement and preserving the freedom of navigation. And that's the breaking news we have right now. We're getting in an update from European Union. We have OR Shaked joining us from New York right now. How do you see this development that's coming in as we see the war? The ceasefire has collapsed. It was anyway fragile, Mr. Shaked. And now the European Union also comes in and says that it's condemnable Iranian attacks on ships. NATO is also, this time at least verbally, backing Donald Trump.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for having me, and good evening and good morning from New York. So as far as the recent developments, I think that the recent statements made by Trump at the NATO summit in Turkey are largely performative. They do display Trump's growing dissatisfaction from the talks and some of the hurdles that were put along the way by the Iranians, by their consistent attacks on tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. But I don't necessarily see that as something that is like the deal breaker. If history shows, once Trump decided to really go to the path of negotiations in the 60-day period, he wasn't necessarily looking at other options and wanted to focus on that rather than kinetic strikes that were apparent before. So yes, it does reflect his growing impatience and dissatisfactions, but I really don't see that at that threshold of attacks, especially after the American response, that we see that as a complete break of the MOU. I think that the Iranians also responded in a performative way rather than something that means that this entire negotiation process is over.
Shaked, in fact, we also see that how the Middle East, the West Asian countries like Kuwait are also now facing strikes, and the world is now concerned as we see this right after this statement. The oil prices have jumped up, and now while we were waiting for some relief, it seems that we are bracing for a deeper crisis, isn't it, as far as the oil and energy supply is concerned?
Of course, I mean all of these Iranian aggression actions have, created an imbalance in the oil market once again. Don't forget that one of the things that the U.S. was caring for very much as part of this negotiation process with the Iranians is the ability to keep the supply chains normalized, just as it was before the war started in February. And at this point, it seems like there's diminishing returns as far as it pertains to the continuation of the negotiations. I also think that there are many things that need to be taken into account when the U.S. moves forward into the prospect of more kinetic strikes on the Iranian regime. And that, of course, has to do with the overall dissatisfaction that has been showed pretty consistently among the American public domestically as it pertains to the war. But if Trump can go ahead and make the argument that regardless of whether things escalate with Iran or not, kinetically, there would be problems economically in terms of the oil supply chain, then maybe that would strengthen actually the case to further its strikes on the Iranian regime.
All right. So just stay on with us, Mr. Shaked. We have some breaking news also coming in. Now, UAE's presidential advisor, Anwar Gargash, has condemned the Iranian attacks on Qatari and Saudi commercial tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, along with repeated aggression against Bahrain and Kuwait, saying that these actions clearly show that Tehran remains incapable of committing to de-escalation and turning the page on war. He also emphasized that Gulf Arab states cannot continue to serve as targets for the Iranian wavering between escalation and the path of rationality, stability, and peace. So this is the situation that we saw just months back, and we again see that Iranian attacks. In fact, we see the presidential advisor saying that there is condemning this strike. We have some more updates coming in fact, right now. And the Iranian media has published the footage of Iran's pre-dawn retaliation as well. So we're going to show you that. Let's break that first. We have pre-dawn retaliation that is being, the footage of which that is being published by Iran as Iranian media. And IRGC answered the US's latest breach of the ceasefire. That's what that is Iranian media citing it to be. And this is the visual that is coming in courtesy Iranian media. Mr. Shaukat continues to be with us. Mr. Shaukat, well, Donald Trump's ceasefire agreement was already, under scrutiny. He was getting a lot of backlash. He continued to defend that. And there were many questions that were being raised already. Now, from the perspective of Donald Trump, do you feel that while he was very desperate to get an off-ramp, he's now just plunging into a deeper crisis and more troubled waters now? But do you think that still will there be any support for him?
Listen, I think that, as far as the administration goes, at least, there is still support for the negotiations. One of the things that Trump didn't mention in his series of statements from this morning is that he is withdrawing his envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, from the prospect of negotiations. He said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, that they're going to stay until the Iranians reach out to them. So it's very clear that he's still leaving the door for negotiations open, even if he wants the Iranians to approach him first. But I just don't see a scenario unless the Iranians really decide to make a severe attack that would attack many Gulf countries en masse, that would create potentially casualties, including American casualties, forces in the region. I just don't see a scenario in which this escalates back to a full-length war. Again, it really these things are fluid. It remains to be seen what's going to happen kinetically. But I just don't see at this point that we've quite reached the threshold that would allow Trump to say, I'm renewing this war. The attacks start right now. I just don't see that way.
Right. Yes, rightly put it out there, but just stay with us. We have more updates coming in. This is a statement that's coming from Iran. In fact, Iran has claimed that U.S. had targeted at least... Iran claimed that it targeted 85 U.S. military strikes in Bahrain and Kuwait, declaring itself ready for decisive action in response to what it called U.S. violations. Now, here's a situation, viewers, where we saw Iran, there were talks about reparations for the damage that has already been done. But here we are, where Iran is saying that it's going to strike back and it's hitting the military sites in Kuwait, in Bahrain. And they have said that there is no hold-bars attack now, and anyone who would be seemingly assisting United States will be dealt with. So that's the breaking news we have right now. IRGC joint strikes, jolting 85 U.S. military strikes in Kuwait and Bahrain. These are the revenge operations, they call it. And we have Bahrain, Kuwait on target of Tehran. U.S. strikes tested last night. More than 80, in fact, targets were hit by Iran. beg your pardon, hit by the United States in Iran. And now, viewers, after the U.S. waves of strike, you have Tehran vowing to hit, and it claims that it has, in fact, hit. And Mr. Shaukat, Iran says the era of bullying and extortion is over. It also says that it's going to not allow or not spare anyone who is who would be assisting United States in this. Iran, what does Iran right now have to retaliate? It is already, we've seen that has incurred a lot of damage too. But you feel that how far this war can go for Iran also?
Well, just to react to the statement made by the Iranians, I find it reach that the Iranian regime claims that the area of bullying is over, given the fact that they were the ones that were the bully of the Middle East, as Trump stated time and again, creating chaos in the region, attacking all of its presumed allies in the region. I speak, of course, of all of the countries that you just mentioned and more, in a series that saw maybe 15 countries altogether in the region and elsewhere attacks among its Arab neighbors. It's just amazing to me that they go ahead, create unprovoked attacks in the Strait of Hormuz, go ahead and attack Arab countries, and then go ahead and claim to be the victim. So if there is any bullying happening, it is happening by the illegitimate Iranian regime that has not only bullied its neighbors, but also killed more than 40,000 of their own people for their own political gains. And again, like, it just goes to show what Prime Minister Netanyahu mentioned yesterday, and rightfully so, and that is that the Iranian regime cannot be trusted. I mean, if they are acting this way throughout these series of negotiations with the United States, which were legitimate good faith efforts by the American administration to try to reach understandings with the Iranian regime, how are they going to be trusted in any framework, if it is ever established, to maintain, to restrain itself, to not attack allies, to not support proxies, to not develop nuclear weapons, to not further develop their ballistic missiles arsenal? I mean, all of these things and more are ironclad promises in the negotiations if this framework ever takes place. But if in this preliminary stage, we are already seeing such egregious violation